Hi, my name is Luci Marshall and I work for Ocean Networks Canada as one of the community sports specialists within the learning and engagement team. So my role is to take our technology to the communities, and we do that in a number of ways. And my aim is to train the communities how to use these instruments and understand the data so that they can then monitor their ocean themselves and collect their own data for the communities. In other examples, we also have observatories in communities, and that's underwater technology that we have in one station, and what we want to do is help them understand the data. So really, I'm there to support the communities with the science programs that they have. So my role, or my speciality, is that I work in Arctic sciences. So I've had the opportunity to go to the high north in multiple places. So in Norway and in Canada, I've been to Cambridge Bay and Iqaluit. And there I've been able to work through sea ice, sampling through sea ice, taking water samples, working on snowmobiles, and just riding around on snowmobiles on the ice, which has been really, really awesome. Incredible landscape, and the people up there are just fantastic. Ooh, I have one funny story. When I was doing my master's, I had put some water samples and I'd attached them to a big buoy, and so they were hanging in the water under the sea ice. And on the day that the sea ice all broke up, so it was warmed up and all the sea ice broke up, and I went out to collect my samples and my buoy had completely disappeared. And so I thought I'd lost all my samples, so I was pretty upset. And then we came back 4 hours later, and because all the sea ice had been moving, it had literally pulled all my samples about 300 or 400 meters away. So I'm almost in a little rowboat at this point, sort of chasing after my samples, which we got them back, which was amazing, but it was also quite funny as well. A lot of fun trying to row through all the different ice patches. Unexpected skills. So I think the big thing about science is being curious and problem solving, and often you do come up with a lot of problems and you have limited things to fix them with. So I think in the Arctic, one of the things we've had to do is we lower a lot of gear through the ice, or holes in the ice, and sometimes it's really heavy. You've got lead weights on there, heavy instruments, and so then you spend a lot of time pulling them back through the ice. So one solution that we had was to attach the rope to the snowmobile and just use the snowmobile to do all the hard work for us, which was an unexpected skill. I've also learned to code on the computer in my time, and I would have never considered myself very computer savvy before, but it's amazing the skills that you pick up, and when you need to do something, you can work it out. So coding is definitely one that I've picked up. Many challenges, I'd say. I think I didn't really have a science background when I was younger, so at high school I stopped taking science. So coming back into it, some of the simple concepts in schooling was a little harder. I'd taken 2 or 3 years off. I'd done drama and I'd done art at high school. So then coming back and trying to pick up science again was very challenging, but very rewarding. I've traveled a lot with my work and science, and so being away from home for a long time can be, again, you get a little homesick at times, but also you get to see some beautiful landscapes. And I think the most incredible thing is the people I've met and the different cultures that I've been able to work in. And sometimes the most remote communities are the friendliest and welcoming, so that's been absolutely incredible. In my undergraduate, I had a number of very awesome professors. So I went to a very, very small school on the west coast of Scotland, and we had a very good relationship with a lot of our professors. And so there was 2 in particular. One of my mentors was Dr. Axel Miller, who was very supportive and would always put me forward for different things, and I could talk to very easily with. And then another one was Dr. Finlo Kotia, and he studied the Arctic and had made links with the University of Tromsø in Norway and the University of Svalbard. So through his connections, he managed to send each year a couple of students up to live in the Arctic for 9 months. So I got to go to 79 degrees north, and I lived there for 9 months. So we got 24 hours light and 24 hours darkness. And I just got to experience the Arctic as an environment, and it's so wild and beautiful, and we got to do all the practical fieldwork experience. So some people think science is working in a lab or at a computer, but science can be many things. So for me in that year, it was riding snowmobiles across glaciers, it was hiking up mountains to collect samples, it was being on boats to collect water and sediment samples. And so it really opened my eyes to sometimes science can be just being in the outdoors and in nature, in some of the remote wild places that most of the world will never get to see. And so that really appealed to me and sort of influenced me to study the Arctic further. One piece of advice. So when I was younger, through high school, from about the ages of 12 to 16, I didn't really like science anymore, or I thought I didn't like science. And really what it was is I had a disconnect with some of the people or some of the teachers that I had. But I think if you find yourself outdoors and interested in nature, or sort of, even if you're at home on your computer and you really enjoy the time on your computer, just because it's not in a classroom setting doesn't mean that you don't like science. So it took a long time for me to come back to science, and really that was just because I enjoyed, for me, oceans. I loved being around the oceans, and I also really loved to travel. So science isn't books. It is sometimes, but it's not just books and numbers and maths and sort of theoretical ideas. Science is all around us, and it's, if you're curious and enjoy it and have questions, even questions, to me that's a scientist. So sometimes the traditional view of science isn't actually what science looks like as a job and a career. So be curious, ask the questions, and as a scientist you don't always have the answers, but you're questioning, and I think that's key.